Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and this is the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. We'll take a look at it, unbox it, turn it on for the first time, take a look at the specs and some of the new features, and this starts at $1,299 and goes up to $1,659. You have 256, 512, or 1 terabyte options for storage. We also have 7 colors this year. This is the new titanium gray color, and this box was actually already open, as thanks to Samsung for sending this along just to take a look at it, and I was able to get it just about 1 day early or so, at least in the United States. Now if we open this up, we'll take a look in the box itself and see what we've got. So if we slide this out here, we have a SIM card tool along with a USB-A to USB-C cable, we can see here, and then also just a little standard paperwork. Let me set that aside and let's take a look at the phone. We don't have a charger or anything else in the box, but we'll compare this with some other phones in a moment. But you can see here's the phone itself. Let's set that aside and close up the box here and talk about the design, as it's changed a little bit this year. Let's remove the covering over the screen. They've made it a flat screen this year. So this is actually a little bit different than what we've had in the past, and it has a new anti-reflective coating on it. That's one of the first design changes. So you can see how dark this is, and if I bring in the S23 Ultra next to it, you can see the reflections right away. So this gives you an idea of the overall differences with reflections. That looks great. I've seen it in some other photos where it's just incredible how well it gets rid of those reflections. Now, as far as the overall design, it's pretty familiar. Of course, we have our typical frame, but this time it's actually titanium. So they've updated this, and on the right-hand side, they haven't changed much here, as we have our power sleep wake button and volume button. Below that is a millimeter wave antenna. As we work our way to the bottom of the phone, you'll see that we have our USB-C port. We also have a microphone and speaker area, as well as our S Pen that you can see here, and it sort of matches gray for the phone, but not exactly matching. And then also, of course, we have our SIM card area, our SIM card tray. So let's go ahead and pop this out and take a look at it and see what we've got. So it has one in it, but if we remove that, you'll see that we have a little gasket there. If we flip it over, in the United States anyway, it looks like we just have one physical SIM card. Let me go ahead and place the SIM card back in, and we'll go ahead and boot it up in just a moment. On the left-hand side, we don't have anything there but an antenna line, and on the top, we've got a couple different microphones. On the back, it looks very familiar, pretty much the same as last year. I have the S23 Ultra here with the same sort of camera arrangement with just a skin on the back. And as far as before that, we really haven't seen much of a change since the S21 Ultra, so very, very similar from what we've seen before. Now this comes in at 232 grams or 8.8 or 8.18 ounces rather, and compared to the S23 Ultra, it's very similar. So if we put it side by side, the overall dimensions are very similar. You'll see the antenna lines in a similar place. Looking down the side, everything is very familiar, which isn't a bad thing, but it's a similar design language that we've had for quite some time. Now, like I said, we have a new anti-reflective coating, and we have a 6.8-inch display at 1440 by 3120 pixels at 505 pixels per inch. It also has new Gorilla Glass armor glass on it as well, which should help with overall scratches and maybe breaking if you drop it. Now let's boot this up. I'm booting it up for the first time. I haven't turned it on. We'll give it just a moment here. It says powered by Android, and we'll get it set up in just a moment. And it says welcome. It sort of fades into that, which is really nice. And internally, let's talk about that quickly, as we have the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 with 12 gigabytes of RAM. We also have a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, and we have some new cameras, a little bit new cameras as well. So we'll go ahead and tap start. We'll get through this, and then we'll talk about the cameras and more. We'll have to agree here, agree, and then some of them are optional. We'll agree again, and then we can bring everything over easily from another device. Now, I currently have my SIM in a different device. Let's go ahead and bring some of that information over. And we could do this wirelessly, but we'll allow access. We'll just do it wired, hopefully to make it a little bit faster. And now we'll transfer everything from the OnePlus 12 to the S23 Ultra just so we can test this out. And it's going to set up everything, including Wi-Fi here on its own. So we'll give it a few minutes to set up, and then we'll continue. Now it says all done. I've put in all my information, and now it's asking me about advanced intelligence, or AI. So you'll see here it says enhance your communications, phone, keyboard, interpreter, Samsung Internet, and photo editor. We'll tap next. We have Samsung service permissions. We can customize it and have smart suggestions. And now it says you're all set up. We'll tap finish. and get to the home screen here. There we are. And before we take a look at the overall operating system and more, I wanted to go over a couple different things. The first thing has to do with the color. This is Samsung's titanium gray, and here is Apple's titanium in natural titanium. So this gives you an idea of what the colors look like side by side. And as we turn the Samsung, you'll see that it has more of a gold/gray look to it, depending on how the light actually hits it. If we look at the sides, you'll see again the sides look very similar as they're both sort of regular natural titanium, but the back itself is a little bit different. So also as far as reflections here on the front, let me turn the screen off. You'll see the Samsung does a much better job as far as that goes. I'm really impressed with that overall coating on the front of it. Now if we turn this back on, swipe to go up, it didn't have me set up a fingerprint sensor this time for some reason. I'll have to do that in a moment, but let me enter my PIN. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the software. And if we go into settings, you'll see it's installing all sorts of things. But if we go into settings, this is incredibly smooth, by the way. If we go into software update, we'll see if we have one here. We probably do, but we'll give it just a moment and see what it says. Most likely there'll be an update at this point. No, I guess not. We're on the January 1st patch, so OneUI version 6.1, and we have everything up to date. So it's installing a bunch of different apps and things, of course, and there's a bunch of app updates as well. So I'll need to get all those installed, but let's talk about the cameras, and then we'll take a look at some of the new features. Now, the forward-facing camera is actually a 12 megapixel f2.2. So you'll see here's video, we'll spin it around, and now you can see it. So it says full HD. We can switch that to UHD up to 60 frames per second, which is really nice. Let's go ahead and see what it looks like. So let me remove my glasses here. And this is the forward-facing camera from the S24 Ultra. It gives you an idea of what it actually looks like and sounds like with the microphone, and they do a pretty good job with the microphone as well. Some of the dark areas, maybe around my shirt, have a little bit of noise in them typically, but we'll see how this is compared to maybe previous versions of the Samsung Galaxy. So maybe the S23 has a little bit more noise. Either way, I expect this to be a pretty good camera. And so we'll stop it here. And the rear-facing cameras are a little bit different this year. So we have a very similar layout as I talked about already, but we have a 200 megapixel f1.7 wide. We have a 50 megapixel f3.4. That's a periscope telephoto zoom, 5 times optical zoom. You can still zoom into 100 times, but it's not quite the same. We also have a 10 megapixel f2.4, 3 times optical, as well as a 12 megapixel f2.2. That's an ultra wide. So you've got similar sort of layout, but a little bit different when it comes to the telephoto zoom. We also can record in 8K at 30 frames per second. So we can zoom in like this, and it's supposed to be much smoother this time around. So let's see if we can see that. We'll zoom back out to 1, back into 3, 5, which should be really nice. There's a little bit of a jump there, and then into 10. So it's not perfectly smooth, but it's nice that we have the option to sort of zoom sort of smoothly. If we go to 8K, we can only zoom in 2 different options. So we have 1 times and 5 times. So you can't record 8K on all sensors, which makes sense. If we go back into UHD, we can go up to 60 frames per second. We have a bunch of different options here as well. So again, we can zoom in video, super smooth. And of course, you don't have to use video either. You can use it for photos and everything else, which we'll take a look at probably in a different video. You also have the option up to 200 megapixels. So you have 50, 200. 12 is probably great for most. Maybe I'd bump it up to 50 if you want a little bit better, but it just depends on what you're looking for. Now let's go ahead and get this a little bit set up more. Now also one thing to note is we do have Wi-Fi 7. So we have 802.11 ABGN AC 6E and 7, as well as Bluetooth 5.3. I actually have Wi-Fi 7, and you can see that it says 7 in the upper right. So it's using that now. Let's do a quick speed test. Should be pretty fast. We'll give it just a moment and see what we have. Now, technically, I have 1,000 down by 35 up at my house, so I wish it was a little bit faster. And you can see I actually have, well, 1,000 down. So that's what it's getting over Wi-Fi, a little bit more than that, which is incredible. We'll give it a moment to check the upload here, but this is getting this wirelessly, just directly to the phone through my router. So that's great. And we're getting about 35 to 40 megabits per second. They really need to fix that, but hopefully we'll get increased upload speeds here soon. but we've got 1,000 down wirelessly. I'm getting my full bandwidth capability. Everything's set up and ready to go, and if we take a look at wallpapers, we have some new AI options along with regular wallpaper as well. So if we go to change wallpaper, you'll see that we have different ones to match maybe the violet color, titanium violet. You can move it around, or if you want something else, there's additional options here as well. So if we go back and scroll down, we have creative options. Similar to what we have on the Pixel, we can use generative AI to actually find or create different wallpaper. So you'll have the options here. You can change it to whatever you want and then create that wallpaper. Also, if we go maybe to a web page and we want to search for something visually, we can do that now. Press and hold the swipe home bar or the home button, and we can now just circle something to search for it. Give it a moment here. It says added to search, and then it finds things that are similar. So that's a super helpful tool that's there. We also have a new feature for live translate. So if you're in the phone app, and then we go to the upper right here, tap the 3 dots, then we go to settings, you'll see we have a new option for live translate. So if you're speaking to someone on the phone that maybe speaks a different language than you can actually have it translate in real time. Now it's questionable how good this is over time. Of course, it will probably improve, but right now, if we turn this on, we have different language updates that we can choose. So right now we can choose me, the language is English, voices and things like that, but also the other person, you can select a bunch of different options here. There's not every option in the world, but we have Chinese, English, French, German, Hindi, Italian, Japanese, Korean, Polish, Portuguese, Spanish, Thai, and Vietnamese. So if you want to use one of those, you have to download it, and then it will install that language model. So if you wanted to do that, you have the option to install that and then try it in real time if you want to use it. So that's a nice feature that's available if you want to use that feature. Also, we have similar things that work in Chat Assist. So if you're using maybe your messaging app, it will suggest things to actually type. Also, there's Note Assist, which is something I've wanted to actually try out. So if we go in and let's find Notes, and within Notes, you'll see it can auto format text. It also has the option to correct spelling. It can summarize what you type, which is something that I think I would definitely use. And so if we create a long note, and let me just do that quickly. So here's what I just spoke quickly, and if we press and hold this button or press the button down at the bottom for AI, it says note smarter, not harder. Tap OK, and we can auto format, summarize it, correct spelling, or translate. So let's auto format that, headers and bullets, and give it just a moment to optimize it and see what it comes up with. So it says introduction, design and build, display. So it auto did this all by itself, something I would definitely use to make my life a little bit easier. So that's incredible that it can just do that so simply. Finally, it has an AI feature that uses the camera. So let's try a different photo here and see what we can come up with. So maybe we've got the S21 Ultra. We'll take the S23 Ultra, and let's see if we can move them around. We'll just take a quick photo here like this. And let's see what we can do. So if we go into it and maybe go into the editor here, give it just a moment and go into the AI features, it says tap or draw around anything you want to move or delete. So let's draw around that. It selected it. Then we can maybe move it over here off to the side and maybe modify that a little bit more, but tap generate. And then we can move something out of the frame. It says adding the missing pieces. Give it just a moment. And this will take a moment actually, as it has to send some data off, gather some other data. It didn't do it perfectly, but it probably could be better in the future with different things. Of course, depending on what you had before, you'll see there's the original, there's what we have, and tap done. Now, of course, you can change this drastically. Depending on what you're doing is going to make all the difference in the world. But let's see if we can maybe... We'll get rid of these two things here. And let's see if we can move them up here, or we'll just move them up slightly and tap generate. So it's not perfect again, like I said, but this is the first time I'm ever trying it, and it seems to work pretty well. It probably works better with scenes without just a white background. But again, it says sculpting new scenery. And again, it's not perfect, but I'm sure it will get better over time, and it probably works better with people. That's pretty much it for the AI features. Of course, I'm sure they'll add additional features as well. The live translate could be super helpful. And also one other thing I wanted to mention is it still has IP68 dust and water resistance up to 1.5 meters for 30 minutes. So all the great things you expect from the S24 lineup or the series lineup from Samsung, and that's pretty much it. And now, as far as a review or comparison, be sure to check back later in the future for different updates with that, where we'll test out the camera, see how it compares to things like the iPhone and everything else. Now, if there's something else you haven't seen, maybe about the S24 Ultra that you're curious about, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below, and I'll try and include that in a review or comparison video. Now, if you're planning to pick one of these up, or you've already picked up an S24 or S24 Ultra, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. And what color did you actually choose? The gray, violet, or something else? You can see there are some fingerprints on here as well, just from me holding it during this video. But again, let me know what you prefer in the comments below. I'll link these wallpapers like I normally do every year when I do an unboxing of the Samsung phones. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.